Welcome! My name is Colleen Tauke and I'm the sewing specialist at Fons & Porter. In this tutorial we'll show you how to put together the quilt called In the Stacks. To purchase the pattern for this quilt you can visit our website. Okay, we're going to use 45 wonderful batik prints here, and they're all 2.5 inch wide. And then we're also using a batik background. It's fun to go looking for the light backgrounds because batiks do come in lights, and it has just kind of a taupe on white, kind of very soft wash to the background, so all these bright, vivid jewel tones really pop out. Okay, from the collection of 2.5 inch wide strips, we're going to separate the entire group into groups of 5, because what we want to do is create a strip set using 5 different prints. Okay, so here I've done a collection of 5 together, kind of mixing up my lights and darks, having a little fun. They don't have to be the same. The idea is the colors in this really just pop throughout the quilt. So a great combination of any 5 together. And then in order to really make the cutting for this quilt go really quickly, what we can do is stack up about 4 of these at a time. So you can see they're offset just a little bit along the top, or along the edge here, and get them about even maybe a 1/4 inch or so. And then what we're going to do is we're going to go in and we're going to cut off 4.5 inch increments off of that. So of course not all of them are the same length, so we're going to line them up, being aware of where the shortest one under there is. And we're going to cut 1, 2, 3, 4.5 inch, so we need it to be at least that long. And we're going to overcut just a little bit for the first cut. Line up along a seam line, one of the horizontal lines on your ruler, and make a nice cut all the way across. It's a great time to make sure that your rotor blade is nice and sharp, so if it needs to be replaced, this might be the time to do it. Okay, then we take that small stack and rotate it, and then we're going to cut the 4.5 inch segment, 1, 2, 3, 4.5. Even after all the cutting I've done over the last 15 or 20 years, I've always go back and double check my numbers. Make sure, because you're cutting through an entire stack, you don't want to be off. So these are scrap, and now I have created 4 units ready to go into a part of one of my blocks. So there's a great collection we can use. Then you would just proceed down the rest of the strip, cutting the 4.5 inch increments down, making sure that these it stays nice and squared up. If at any time when you're cutting, usually after about the 3rd or 4th cut, sometimes this happens, you'll get kind of a wedge. It's not quite straight square here and here. Go ahead and overcut just a little bit on one of your blocks, and again go back and straighten it up. Accuracy does help because this is a very linear quilt, so you want to keep things cut accurately. Okay, now we're going to take these 5 pieces and we're going to follow our diagrams in our pattern, and we're going to lay in rectangular shapes, background fabrics like this, and create rows. That's simple piecing, easy to do, don't have to think too hard. The placement of these stacks, we're calling them, can vary. In one block they may be, as you're putting them together, for instance, the pink and the green might be next to each other, but then it could also then appear down here turned upside down in a different place, and the block will give you that overall random look you're going for. So we're going to join these into rows. Of course, if you look at this, you'll see all these seam allowances, so you're going to want to press your seam allowances toward the rectangular bar that joins them. Then you won't have any resistance and it will press up really nice. So you're going to create rows like that, and then you're going to join 2 of those rows together. And that's actually the block in the quilt. It's kind of like a big block. So here, I had them oriented in the workroom, so I put little sticky dots there to keep track of where I wanted to, what I wanted to call up. And now you'll see, you're going to join this rectangle to one of your rows or subunits like this, and then this one on next. Now, you are going to want to make sure that this stays aligned throughout the construction. So you're going to come in here, and you can measure the increments from your actual piecing. Come in and measure the increment here, this one, this, all the way along. And then you can make notches. And you can, if your piecing is nice and accurate and your pressing is coming out well, you can just make a registration mark with a disappearing pen. This one disappears when I iron over it, which is really great. And I'm putting the marks just in the seam allowance. And now as I bring that up, you'll notice there's a registration mark that lines up with each of these. And you would do that on the far side also. Once you join this one first, so first we'd add, whoops, sorry, think about this in your head. You're going to join these pieces together, and we'll put it through the sewing machine so you can see exactly how that's going to work out. This is time again to make sure that your 1/4" seaming is very accurate, because all these rows are going to match up. It makes a grid work throughout the entire quilt. The designer did a really nice job of keeping everything aligned and joined well. And if that's what attracts you to this quilt, you're going to want to do the exact same thing in your quilt. Okay. Now we are sewing with red thread, just for your benefit so you can see where we've stitched. You're sewing at home would probably use on this one, I would use probably a taupe or a light cream colored thread. And we're going to get all the way to the far side, and I'll show you how to put in the registration marks for joining the other side to it. Now, got that one in place. Seam allowance, of course, is going to want to press with no resistance toward that rectangle shape all the way along. Now the one easy way to do this, if this is accurate and one hasn't stretched and they're perfectly aligned, is that you can, if you don't like math, you can come in and make just a little registration mark off of your columns that you cut. It's a great way to quickly put in the registration marks for aligning this row. Because now, as we lay one on top of the other, I'll give you a peek and we'll see how well they line up. What we want is cut edges here aligned. And this is a time when you're probably going to want to put in a few pins. Not a lot, but just at each intersection you'll see that I put a registration mark right there and it lines up with the seam underneath perfectly. One nice thing about working with batik fabrics is they're very stable. There's a lot of ink on them, so there isn't a lot of stretch. You'll see the next registration mark lines up with that seam allowance perfectly. And you would just continue as you lay it on. You'll see the registration mark there, one there, here, and seam along. And then as you open it up, you'll see that's your big block. You need to create 9 of these, 3 across and 3 down, to create in the stacks. For more of our sewing tutorials, visit our website. Thanks for joining me in the studio today.